Whew. Gotta give me a second to catch my breath. Trying to get, I'll point this camera the right way. Some of this, anyway, some of that beautiful sunset. Whew. Yeah, I think I'm a little into 3 miles. Oh, I need to take a break, get a breath, enjoy the view, God's beautiful creation, and changing of the seasons. Though it still feels pretty hot for today, 29th of September. So when you see peanuts still in the ground right there, you're getting ready to till them up. Been pretty dry lately. And I've been thinking about, man, I don't know, a lot of stuff. Work, life, disc golf, trying to exercise. First time I'm out running in, I don't know, a good long minute. I was running, thinking about, Jonah. That was our story in Sunday school today. And, a lot of people think, man, how can you believe fairy tale like that? Dude getting swallowed and living in the belly of a fish for 3 days. I mean, that's a pretty good story. But out of all things, I would definitely consider that somewhat possible. I mean, that really shouldn't be a stretch for anybody that believes, all of this, and so much more came from nothing. That all of a sudden nothing burst into everything. And, whew, I just can't believe that something comes from nothing. I keep looking at my wallet thinking like, man, I'm gonna have me a fat stack in there. My bank account, boom, there's gonna be $1 million in there all of a sudden. But that don't ever seem to happen. I think that's because God made the world in a certain way. And the only reason we got the world is because God spoke it into existence. Because in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. That is the Logos. That is Christ. That is Jesus. It's from Him that we have everything. It's from the invisible that we have all of the visible world. But that's all just a reflection of something so much deeper. Something that is so much more real than any physical, material object. And that's why I think there's so much truth in the story of Jonah. God calls Jonah. So the word of the Lord came to Jonah, called him to go up to Nineveh, to go speak to a people that, quite frankly, have been anything but nice to the Israelites. Yet, it's a story I think that often gets overlooked. So many people say God of the Old Testament was a mean, vengeful God, full of wrath. And then the God of the New Testament is loving. That's not what Jonah thought about God. Not at all. In fact, Jonah, instead of going up to where God called him, he ran down. He fled from the direction God was calling him. And I know In my own life, man, I've been plenty guilty of that. I felt God calling me to go one direction, and I decided to go another way. Old brother Larry at church today talked about, it's one thing he read to us in his Sunday school lesson today was, no matter how good the reason is that you've got for not doing what you're called to do, disobedience is still disobedience, no matter how good your reason may be. So that's something I think we always got to remember. But notice Jonah flees down to Joppa, and he gets on a boat traveling towards Tarshish, running further away. And then he goes into the bottom of the boat, and while this giant storm is going on, he's down in the deepest part of the boat sleeping. So dude is completely oblivious to everything that's going on around him and the trouble that not only is he in, but the trouble that he has brought about all those around him. How true does that ring in our lives? When we fail to follow God's call in our life, how much chaos, what turbulent storms do we bring upon ourselves and those closest to us, those that are in our ship, our families, our friends, our jobs, and our church? Because our church is that body of believers that is with us, that we do life with. But there is hope, because just like Jonah in that sea, somebody in that boat with him came and woke him up. Said, Jonah, bro, what are you doing down here, man? We're all going to die because this storm is so violent. The ship is about to break in half. We're all up here praying to all these different gods, trying to figure out what in the world is going on, because, man, we're about to die. You down here sleeping, bro. Get up and pray to whatever God you know. And that's when Jonah remembers. He goes, oh, yeah, it's me. All this mess that y'all are in, I brought it about, because I serve the God of the earth, the sea, the heavens, and he caused this whole storm. And you're gonna have to throw me overboard. I'm gonna have to pay the price for this. And just thinking about that, it's like, yeah, Jonah's right. And he still doesn't want to go to Nineveh. So he would rather die than go to Nineveh to see God save these pagans, because he knows that God is gracious and compassionate. He's a God of love, even in the Old Testament, because God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is not changing. He is not fickle. He doesn't just blow wherever the wind takes him, because he is the wind. He is spirit. He is truth. He is eternal. He is perfect. All right, so these guys say, okay, Jonah, we're going to throw you over, but, we're not accountable for your life. He says, no, you're not. And they throw him over. It was really interesting there in chapter 1. Those guys make a sacrifice to God, and they make vows to him. So even despite Jonah's initial rebellion and running away, when he comes to and sees the error of his ways and admits his faults and wakes up to it and, speaks that fault and failure and the reality of the situation into being, others are transformed and saved from him doing that. And we have the same opportunity in our lives when we make mistakes to confess them. And God is faithful and just to forgive, and he will work wonders when we come to him. I know that's something that I often need to be reminded of, especially with kids in the house. And when we make mistakes as parents, to humble ourselves and go before our children and ask for forgiveness. And I know that God uses that to teach them truths that would otherwise be lost. And those are the hard truths. So Jonah gets thrown over the boat and he gets swallowed by a fish. And he's in the belly of the fish 3 days, 3 nights. And, he prays to God down there. It's in the deepest, darkest part of chaos and disorder that he calls out to God. And so often, God brings us to rock bottom to remind us who is truly in control. We love what C.S. Lewis said. There's 2 types of people in the world. There's those who say to God, "Thy will be done." And then there's those people to whom God says, "Thy will be done." And that's the amazing thing of free will, is God won't force us, because you can't have love if it's forced. Love is freely given, right? It is never returned. Love doesn't do just to get something back. And that's something we need to do as well, is check our motives. Are we doing this, whatever it may be, just so somebody will see? So somebody will be like, "Oh, they're a good person." Or, "Oh, look what they did." Or are we doing it because we know that our Father in heaven sees and will reward? It's also interesting that Jonah's in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights, which is, parallel to Christ's crucifixion, and how he has come back from the depths, from those giving him over to death. But, unlike Jonah, Christ was perfect in all things. He didn't deserve to be put on a cross, to be nailed to that cross after being flogged, beaten, mocked, betrayed, spit on, stripped naked. If ever there was perfectly good and just man, it was Jesus Christ. Yet, this man, God in flesh, displayed perfect love in the fact that he willfully bore all of that unjust punishment, because he took it in the place of you and me. And that is perfect love. The fact that you have a God that does not need you, does not need me, does not need anybody. Yet he chose to create us because he is a creator God. That is who he is. He chose to create us even though he knew we would rebel. The wife's calling me. Oh, so that was the wife. She had to go pick up Abigail from church from their little youth outing thing. And she hit a deer. Fortunately, she's all right. Just messed up the grill a little bit, but the car's still drivable, so could be much worse. But thankfully, God is good. And I know that accident could have been much worse because there's plenty of people across this country, across this world right now that are in tragic accidents that are much, much worse than dinging a deer in some backcountry road. Because there's accidents multiple times a day that take people's lives. And that's why this is a serious issue. Nobody is promised tomorrow. Nobody. Not you, not me, not anybody. That's why God implores you to come to him. Christ is calling you because he suffered in your place. All right, because if God is just, and he must be perfectly just, otherwise he's not God. Because God is perfect in all of his ways. In every attribute, God is perfect. So his justice must be perfect. Therefore, every wrongful deed, every wrongful act must be accounted for. And now Christ has stood in our place. He has taken our punishment and made it his own. If we accept that in faith, if we believe in our hearts, and we confess with our mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in our hearts that he was raised from the dead, God is faithful to forgive us. And God must also be perfectly gracious. And what greater grace than to give a wretched sinner forgiveness for his sins. The Lord's calling to you, just like he called to Jonah. Will you seek him and come to him? Or will you run from him? The choice is yours.